IMSA VP Racing SportsCar Challenge, and you look down at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, an absolutely glorious morning for racing just outside Toronto, Canada. Two different classes of cars, prototypes and GSX cars. Where is Canadian Tire Motorsport Park? Well, if you're an old-time race fan, you recognize it as Mosport, but the racetrack has not changed, even though the name and the ownership has. It is still a magical, magical place. Commitment, high speed. You've got to bring your A game to this racetrack if you're going to succeed. Turn 5, one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. Turn 8, one of the quickest. And then from turn 1 all the way to turn 4, it is an absolute roller coaster, and you'd better have a good race car underneath you. Race 2 of the weekend, but let's take you back to race 1 and show you how we got to this point. It was full of action from the get-go. The green flag drops. Jonathan Woolridge outside the front row uses local track knowledge to his advantage, sweeps her by to the front, and he will not be contested. Big problems, though, for the 28. Big impact there into turn 5. That was Keith McGovern. Good to see Keith McGovern walked away, dejected. Climbs into the AMR safety car, and he is fine. Well, this is not fine. That 5th or 6th car in line on the restart, Alex Kirby, just a little bit anxious there, jumps before the green flag. He'll have to serve a penalty for that, and for this, moves the 17 out of the way. And the officials say, no, we're not having any of that, so he has to serve a penalty. This was up front, the battle for the lead in the GSX class. Michael Cooper in the Porsche, Francis Seldorf in that Turner Motorsports BMW behind, pressure the entire race. And then a big, big problem. Mark Siegel aboard the 93. Huge impact, just got a little wide at turn 8. The car hooks back to driver's right. Full course caution. Mark Siegel would be climbing out of that car on his own and taken to medical for a checkup, but the checkered flag falls. Woolridge wins in the prototype category in P3, and Michael Cooper takes his first win in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge in the GSX class. Full of excitement yesterday. Brian Till with you along with Jeremy Shaw. We're back again today, and Jeremy, I want to see the same kind of racing. I don't want to see the same kind of incidents, that's for sure.
No, that's exactly right. It was tremendously exciting, particularly in the GSX class. Francis Seldorf was started from the pole position yesterday because Greg Learfouge in the Stephen Cameron Racing BMW had elected not to start yesterday's race because he was concentrating on the team's effort in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race later in the day. But he will start today and will start up front. So Francis Seldorf will start second this time, and he's going to be, once again, he hopes, putting the pressure on to try and get his first win. Michael Cooper got it yesterday. There was a tremendous battle between those two. Expecting more of the same sort of action today.
Well, you know, the thing that was interesting about yesterday is the championships definitely closed up in the P3 category a little bit. And in GSX, same thing, because you bring in a Michael Cooper or a Greg Learfouge who aren't running the entire series, but they run well when they're here. That really mixes things up front.
Well, it does, and you know, it's not. We're now got a real battle on in both championships, really. But it's certainly interesting to see those interlopers kind of showing their class a little bit, showing their experience there. But this is a series primarily for people who don't have experience. It's an opportunity to gain experience and perhaps move up into the the more senior championships in a short time.
Look at the first 3 in the P3 category: Bajor Garg, Dan Goldberg, Jonathan Woolridge, the first 3 on the racetrack, all race winners so far this season. And then Greg Learfouge, who starts first in GSX. You said it, Jeremy. He's won here before as well. So a lot of fast drivers up front. And the racetrack today should be extremely fast. Lights out on the Corvette C8 pace car. And we should be green this time by.
Yeah, and it's perfect weather conditions right now. Top 5 in GSX. Sebastian Carrazza, the championship leader, he starts 5th in GSX. Ahead of him is Tim Probert, who won the bronze category yesterday. And then Michael Cooper, yesterday's race winner. And then, as we talked about, Gregory Learfouge and Francis Seldorf, 2 BMWs on the front row. In LMP3, Brian Cenas, another good run yesterday. He starts 5th. Courtney Crone had a podium finish yesterday, starts 4th. Alongside her is the yesterday's winner, Jonathan Woolridge. As you say, Dan Goldberg and Bajor Garg, who dominated the first rounds of the season at Daytona, they're on the front row of the grid.
Talk about the front row of the grid, a little bumping and banging already, a little impatience up front. The green flag waves, and that is not a particularly good start. Cars out of line. Bijoy Garg starting on the pole, really did not get a big jump, but Dan Goldberg outside did. Sweeps around the outside and to the front, but Jeremy, I'm going to think about that start. I saw a lot of cars out of column and out of formation before they crossed the start-finish line.
Yeah, and there was a couple of people called for that yesterday, so I'm surprised the drivers weren't paying more attention to the race director before the start of this race. They'll certainly be looking at that one. It wouldn't surprise me if a few penalties were called. But once again, Bijoy Garg just doesn't get off the line. Got completely swallowed up. I don't know what he was waiting for, because he's now dropped all the way down to 4th position. I think he's got some work to do in that Junior 3 racing car number 3.
Well, I'm sure Jonathan Woolridge, who was right behind him and went around driver's right, is going to say, he didn't go. What was I supposed to do? I was going to either hit him or I needed to move out of line. We'll see what the officials say about that. But anyway, you look at it, our pole sitter, you called it, Jeremy, now back in 4th, and Dan Goldberg has checked out. Let's take a look at the start one more time. Slow start out of turn 10. Dan Goldberg, our picture to the right, and yeah, Bijoy Garg just doesn't go, doesn't accelerate, and he is, as you said, Jeremy, swallowed up there at the start.
Yeah, I mean, come out of the last corner, get going. I mean, what's the point in hanging around? I don't understand that. The question, of course, is whether the green flag was out at that stage. If it wasn't, then I would have thought the start would have been aborted, quite frankly. We'd run under yellow and then try it again. But the green was shown, and Bijoy Garg, I mean, credit to Jonathan Woolridge, he waited. He pulled up kind of alongside, but he waited as long as he could before passing the pole sitter. So I don't think Woolridge did absolutely anything wrong there at all.
And the question is going to be, was it Dan Goldberg who jumped the start, or Bijoy Garg who just didn't go? The officials will look at it. We'll look at the racing. That's what's exciting right now. Goldberg is checked out in his Duquesne chassis. Really good start for him, but really good start for Courtney Crone as well aboard the 99 Red Dragon. In second, now into turn 8, just behind her, Jonathan Woolridge, the winner from yesterday. Duquesne chassis that Courtney Crone is piloting, just behind her, Woolridge in the Ligier chassis, and you can look at the front end of this car and get an idea of which is which. The Duquesne, a pointy nose cone, and that Ligier is somewhat more rounded with those 2 down strakes that go down to the front splitter. So when those cars are coming at you, you get a really good indication of which chassis you're looking at.
Yeah, you do, and Dan Goldberg is saying thank you very much indeed to everybody here, because as you say, Brian Taylor, he's checking out at the front. 2.6 seconds his lead over Courtney Crone after 2 laps, and this is exactly pretty much what happened at Daytona, the opening races of the season, because Bijoy Garg was the pole sitter. He was the fastest man there, but he didn't get off the line particularly well, and Dan Goldberg said, okay, I'm going to take it. And as a bronze category driver, he ended up winning both races overall. Took the championship lead, has maintained it ever since. This is exactly what he needs if he's to maintain that championship lead.
Start is under review, so the officials taking a look at that. Dan Goldberg's looking at an empty racetrack in front of him, and in GSX, the front looks much like it did yesterday, except there's an orange BMW in there that we didn't have yesterday, and that's Greg LaFouche, who is leading right now over Michael Cooper and Francis Seldor. That's the top 3 in GSX. Courtney Crone, meanwhile, has her hands full. Woolridge right behind, and then Bijoy Garg, the 3rd car in line, the white Ligier chassis, trying to make up for that start. And I'm sure he's on the radio going, hey, guys, you got to help me out. I mean, what was that about? I got jumped at the start, and I'm sure his team is saying to him, Jeremy, drive the race car. Yeah. We'll take care of this. You drive the race car.
That's right. I mean, Junior 3, lots of experience underneath that tent, and they know how to run races, and they know how to win races. Billy Glavin, who spent many years at Hendrick Motorsports, many years, but several years with Hendrick Motorsports, and you don't go to Hendrick Motorsports in a responsible position and not learn. So he was concentrating his driving out. You've got a fast car because you started on the pole position, you qualified fastest. So now make use of it. Courtney Crone, last lap was pretty good. She was only a couple of tenths slower than Dan Goldberg on the last lap. So she's running good pace at the moment to maintain that second position. A little farther back, though, is the battle once again now with Michael Cooper and Francis Seldorf. Michael Cooper in that multicolored Porsche, who is in second position, as you say. Greg Learfouge is kind of checking out at the front. But once again, Francis Seldorf is looking at the back of that Porsche in his Turner Motorsport BMW, wondering how and where he can make a pass. He did this all race yesterday, wasn't able to make it stick because Michael Cooper carry up the hill, holes at inside line.
He's there. He's there. He's there. Does he have it through the turn 9? He's there for 9, but Cooper has the inside for 10. This is great racing, respectful driving by these two drivers right now, and this is a good run. Seldorf has a very, very good BMW underneath him, and Cooper, he's got to watch how many times and when he moves that Porsche in defense, because if he moves it in response to the car behind him, the official will call him on it. They'll call that a block. You cannot move once the car behind you begins a move. You can be proactive with it, place the car when you come off the corner, but you cannot move in response. And Seldorf takes a look there. The run yesterday that Seldorf had has moved him from 6th to 3rd in the championship, by my math, coming in to today, and he's got a very strong BMW underneath him. And 38 minutes left to go. I'm sure Turner Motorsports camp saying, patience, just find the spot, wear him down.
I agree, and he's only 20 points behind Moise Uretsky, who is also leading the Bronze Cup category overall in the championship, the overall standings. So Francis Seldorf here is only 110 points behind Sebastian Carrazzo. 110 might sound a lot, but a couple of years ago, IMSA brought out a new point system where there's now 350 points for a win. So all of a sudden, 10 points doesn't sound like very much, and it isn't, and nor is 110 really. So Francis Seldorf very much has his championship, is in the reckoning, but he would certainly love to get past Michael Cooper here as soon as he can.
Well, talk about reckoning. There is going to be some reckoning for the start, Jeremy. Just noticed it on the timing screen. Car 38 penalty, false start, column pass, drive-through. That is the red car on the driver's right who pulls out and goes around the car that's in front of him. It's frustrating as a driver, these start rules, but you are to maintain your column until you cross the start finish line, and immediately Jonathan Woolridge comes to pit lane to serve that penalty. This is what you need to do. Serve it, get back out on the racetrack. If you get a full course yellow, when you get back out there, you're right back in the hunt. So serve the penalty. He knows he did it. I mean, you can argue why it happened, but he knows he did it, so he serves it. Once again, you've got to stay in your column. Even though Garg didn't go, Woolridge was obliged to stay behind him in line until they got to the start-finish line, and obviously he did not do that.
No, he tried, I think, because you could see Dan Goldberg pulling away, and Woolridge jumped alongside initially, and then he was waiting for Bijoy Garg to go, and he never did.
Well, also understanding the 95 will get a penalty for lining up on the wrong side, and this is what happens when we have cars that drop out of the field. We had a couple of cars that moved out of the field because of problems yesterday, Mark Siegel being one of them, and then a couple of the prototype cars as well, the 28 that we talked about, the crash there for Keith McGovern. That kind of jumbles the field. You are to know what side you should be on as the field gets readjusted, and obviously for Seldorf and his crew, they had him on the wrong side, and so he too will have to do a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that's weird. He did the same thing yesterday, for which he got a penalty. A warning yesterday rather than a penalty. So one would have thought he might have learned from that, but apparently not. I mean, look, he's a college student, for goodness sake, and one would have thought he should have learned from that one, but apparently not. He's a really talented young man, is Francis Seldorf, no doubt about it. Senior at Boston College, studying computer science and finance, but apparently not listening to radio.
Well, and it is challenging when there are these late grid changes. Some series just move the column forward and fill the empty hole. Others rearrange the grid, and you are now to move, as you move up, you end up on the opposite side from where you would have been if everybody were in the field. So it can be confusing. I can understand how it can happen, but but as you pointed out, the same thing happened yesterday. You think you'd be on guard today. 44 looking to move up. That's Uretsky looking inside the Porsche through 8 and then 9. Should get a good run through 10. And I just saw Michael Cooper come to pit road. I believe that was Michael Cooper.
Yeah, what's that for? There's no call of a penalty here. As Moise Uretsky puts the pressure here on Sebastian Carrazzo as they head over hill into turn 3. Is he going to make that pass side by side through turn 2? That's pretty good going.
And Carrazzo trying to come back on him. There's Cooper, and they're looking at the front of the car. It's actually going up on Jack, so this isn't just a flat tire. Let's change it and go back out. When they put those blocks underneath it, it's going to be in the air for a while, and they're looking for a problem, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of urgency on the part of the crew either, Jeremy.
No, it doesn't. That was really strange there. But here's this battle continuing. So Moise Uretsky has moved up that position ahead of Sebastian Carrazzo, and Adam Adelson hanging right there with them also in that NOLA Sport Porsche car number 47, and a good string of cars behind them. Now with the overall LMP3 leaders working their way through the GSS pack already.
It doesn't take long to get there, and now you want to use that traffic to your advantage if you possibly can. So Courtney Crone is trying to do, stack the other cars up behind her, those GSX cars, and keep Bijoy Garg or that white number 3 mired in traffic. Dan Goldberg now working through traffic, and Courtney Crone has really closed up the gap. Actually, that was Alex Kirby, I think, that was in front of her. Oh, there's Dan Goldberg. Yeah, she's really closed the gap.
She has, and the last 3 or 4 laps, she was actually quicker than Dan Goldberg, so she was actually making ground toward him. But she's now got her mirrors full of Bijoy Garg, as they work their way through this traffic. So a really nice job there by Courtney Crone. I thought yesterday she finished 3rd, which matched one of her results from Daytona, the first round of the season. But I thought yesterday was by far her best ride. She was competitive, good lap times, and again, she's building on that confidence today.
I think she gets better and better every time she gets in the car, and that was a really, really heady move by Courtney Crone as they came into turn 5. She looked to the inside of Sebastian Carrazzo into 5. She didn't plan to make the pass, but what she was really trying to do was to defend from Bijoy Garg right behind her. If she had stayed in lockstep with the GSX car in front of her, it would have left her vulnerable to the pass inside there in 5. And so she blocked that, kept him behind her until she got the good run off of 5 down the back straightaway. That is smart driving. Not only quick lap times, but strategic as well. Courtney Crone is doing really, really well right now.
Yeah, she is, and hats off to her for that. Francis Seldorf has just served his drive-through penalty for that. Here he is now coming out of pit lane, having served that drive-through penalty for the being out of line at the start. It's a very specific instruction that all the drivers are made aware of before the start of the race. It's in the regulations and et cetera. But well, a warning yesterday, not so today. But here's this battle then up for 2nd and 3rd position with Courtney Crone still under intense pressure now from Bijoy Garg.
Run off the back, slowest corner on the racetrack. They call it Moss Corner. Turns 5A and B. There's actually a 5C as well, but it's not much of a corner. But a good run down there, and this is where you get that idea of how well you exited turn 5B, how well you got the power down, and what kind of aerodynamic downforce, what kind of package are you running today? Is the Duquesne perhaps a little bit more slippery through the air? Does it have a little more top speed? Is she running a little less downforce because the Ligier seems to be really hooked up through this section of the racetrack? Jeremy, through turns 1, 2, 3, and 4.
It does, doesn't it? And Bijoy is, he's fast in these cars. He's perhaps not got his racecraft down just yet, particularly his starts. But other than that, he's done a lot of miles on a lot of different cars over the last several years. Done a fair bit of driving in Europe. He tested intensely in Northern California, where he's from. He's from Atherton, California, and done a lot of testing over the last couple of years. He's also driving in the USF Pro 2000 Championship having kind of working his way up the open wheel ranks as well. Had a good, strong finish last weekend at Mid-Ohio SportsCar course, was in the top 5 for the first time and qualified in the top 5 as well. So lots of racing miles, and now he's got to put that racecraft that he's learning rapidly to bear and bring to bear on Courtney Crone, try and get that second position.
I think Dan Goldberg got the worst of the traffic. Will it see what his gap is to Courtney Crone this time by? It was 1.58 seconds last time, and as they flash through turn 10, Goldberg across the line, then Crone, and it's 2.7. So in clear traffic right now, Dan Goldberg seems to have the better car, and I believe Courtney Crone's focus is probably no longer in front of her, Jeremy, but it's fully in the rearview mirror, because Bijoy Garg, once he got there with the help of traffic, he is not getting away. And tell you what, I look behind them, Brian Thenis, Alex Kirby, they're beginning to close in on this duo.
Yeah, they are. I think Courtney's getting a little bit defensive now, and that's costing her time and allowing these other two to close in. And Alex Kirby there in that number 7 car, the second Performance Tech Motorsports entries, the other one being Jonathan Wooldridge, who served that drive-through penalty, is now catching up at the back of the train, about 6 seconds behind the 7th place car, which is Lance Willsey. So he's making ground after serving his penalty. And with the pace he showed yesterday, there's not out of the realm that Jonathan Wooldridge could get himself back up into the top 5 or 6.
Well, and certainly if you ended up with a full course caution, you can be right back into it. 28 minutes to go. Brian Sill, Jeremy Shaw with you, VP Racing Sports Car Challenge from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. 2 different classes in VP Sports Car Challenge. The P3 class, which are LMP3 based machines, same cars that you see run in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. And then the GSX cars, the GT based cars, it's a GT4 car you'd see in Michelin Pilot Challenge. So familiar machines and familiar drivers, but a different format, because it's a sprint format. And quite honestly, Jeremy, I love it both for the drivers, the teams, and of course the fans.
Yeah, it is. It's great, isn't it? And I love these LMP3 cars. I mean, they sound really cool. They are, I'm told, a lot of fun to drive. They've got plenty of horsepower. They've got a good amount of ground effect downforce as well. So, you know, they really grip the road and are an absolute hoot. We've got this super battle going on now. 4-second position. Courtney Crone has it. Joy Garg wants it, and behind him are Brian Thenis and Alex Kirby. Who are going at it hammer and tongs. Brian Thenis, what a good job he's doing. He's actually second in Bronze Cup, because Dan Goldberg is also a bronze category driver. But Brian Thenis, he's been around this sport a long time. Did Formula Atlantic back in the day, and is some open wheel racing. He's from Huntington Beach in Southern California, and just a really cool guy, super enthusiast. And doing a nice job there in that number 77 car for Forte Racing, powered by US Restronics.
Dan Goldberg out in front. He's out in front in the championship standings as well in the P3 category of VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. Courtney Crone took another half second out of the lead that time. Goldberg had been pulling away. She's clawed back a half a second. This train behind her, I'm sure the team is saying, focus forward, Courtney. You called it, Jeremy. When you start to be defensive, you're a little bit offline, you can't run the ultimate lap, and while that may keep the person from getting by you right now, it just draws them closer. It puts them in a better position in the ensuing lap. So, it gives and takes, and you've got to be careful about just how defensive you're going to be. If you're too defensive, you bring the battle to you, which is, I think, a little bit what Courtney did those last few laps.
Yeah, I think so, and she's got to kind of focus forward now and realize she's got some good pace in that car. Her best lap in this race is a 1:14.5, which is almost identical to the fastest lap set by our race leader, Dan Goldberg. Having said, and quicker also than Jonathan Wooldridge, who's making his way back up towards the tail end of the cars in LMP3. So she's got really good pace today. And if she just don't worry about that car behind her, just behind her, just get focused on the job she's got at hand. But she's a really talented young lady, 22 years of age, from Corona, California, although she lives now in La Quinta and works out at the thermal track, where they have a lot of LMP3 cars. as part of the club facility there at that very impressive country club track in Southern California.
Watching that battle through turn 5A and B, she runs a slightly different line than Garg, and I don't know that it's defensive. I think she's been on that line the entire time. Really, the part of that corner that's important, Jeremy, is 5B, the second part, because that's what takes you down that long straightaway. Good battles here in GSX. Tim Probert in the 5th position right now aboard the 65, that copper-colored Mercedes, and he's got a rear-view mirror filled with Patrick Wilmot. Wilmot, he and his team showed up at Daytona, and they were impressive from the get-go. Brand new to pro racing like this. Had a couple of problems with tech and learned their lessons there, but so impressive on the track and off, and another good run for Wilmot here. The small team traveling a long, long way to get here to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and Patrick Wilmot trying to make the best of the efforts that they put in and reward the team.
Yeah, very cool. That's Decision Motorsports. They've a lot of enthusiasm there. Look, the two Turner Motorsport BMWs behind him. Notice 2. The second one being Francis Seldorf. Actually, the first one now being Francis Seldorf, because he made up for that drive-through penalty he had, and he's just worked his way past his teammate Vin Barletta in the number 96 car. And the first of these Turner BMWs here, he is putting pressure on that older spec BMW. That's the F82 version, as opposed to the G version that Seldorf has. Oops, there's a spin for Adrian Kunzel.
Kunzel around in 5A. Easy to do there as you come up into the brake zone, and then you get to a plateau at the top of the hill. Let's see if we can get an idea of what happens. Well, it's easier to do when you get turned around.
Yeah, that'll be a penalty, I think, for that was Jonathan Wooldridge, wasn't he, trying to make that pass? He'd already just got past Lance Willsey, but that's all come to grief there for Wooldridge. Yeah.
Yeah, you get in that mode of charging forward, and all of a sudden you kind of feel invincible, and you're just going to go. Well, you can't just go if there's another car in front of you, so a problem there. But for Seldorf moving up, he's gotten around Wilmot. Next on the list is Tim Probert. It is Murillo Racing AMG Mercedes. See if he can get this done. And I think it's interesting, too. I mean, hats off once again to Patrick Wilmot and his squad. You talked about it, Jeremy. That older BMW, you see it right there. And anytime you bring older equipment to do battle with guys that are in the current and latest and greatest spec, you kind of are on the back foot to begin with. And so the performance this team has, I think, is just that much more impressive.
Yeah, true that. And there goes around the outside of Tim Probert. I tell you, my hat's off to Tim Probert. He's 71 years of age, for goodness sake. And he doesn't drive like that. Patrick, he made some room there for the overall race leader to make the pass, Dan Goldberg, and in doing so cost himself a position. He'd be annoyed about that.
Oh, look at this. Whoa. Look at this. This is a pass for second in P3, and Bijoy Garg way out outside track limits, I should say, in turn 1. Thought he was going to get around the outside. This is where this traffic works for you or against you. Courtney Crone able to pick the proper line. She's gotten through. Now Probert slides over in front of Garg. Garg's going to try to go around the right side of him, down to 4, and Courtney Crone got the best of that, but more traffic in front of her. She heads to 5.
Well, that was intense, wasn't it? This super battle for, is it 5th position?
Oh, Garg with a good run off of 5B.
GSX. Yeah, I mean he's fast, and he didn't have any option to run off the road there because there was too many other cars in the way.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. He was way outside track limits, but I think he got put there. If he'd stayed on the racetrack, you wouldn't have liked the result, that's for sure. Yeah. So I think he did the right thing. The question would have been, if he had managed to use that to get in front of Courtney, would they have put it back?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter because it didn't happen, but he's now right back there on the rear wing of Courtney Crone. She thought she was going to get a little breathing room. Hats off to Courtney. Great choices there. And you talk about split-second decisions. That's like hitting a fastball at 90 miles an hour or so. You have about a half a second to see it, react, and do. And Man, it's split-second decision-making. She got another split-second decision to make right here. Looks to the inside. That's not going to work. Garg's going to go around the outside. Will that work for him? Courtney gets pinched to the right. Bijoy Garg is by.
Yeah, and Alex Kirby is looking to make a move as well, because he's passed through. So a little bit of indecision there from Courtney, and that's cost her. And Alex Kirby is moving up well. Where is Ryan Thenis? He had been passed by Kirby on the last lap, and I don't see him in the picture there either. So where is he?
Good question.
Not sure. So good opportunistic move there for Bijoy Garg up into second position. And now he's got about 5 seconds as deficit to Dan Goldberg. By the way, as they work their way through the traffic, the lap time for the race leader, was 1 minute 19.4. It was 1 minute 20 for the second and third place cars on that last lap. He's been regularly running high 1 minute 14s. It cost him more than 4 seconds working his way through that traffic on that last lap.
Well, he was super careful, and for sure. Yeah. And you look at Courtney Crone's last lap time, the traffic that she got caught up in when Garg and Kirby got by, they turned 1:15.7 for Garg, a 1:16.5 for Kirby, and Courtney Crone's lap time, 1:20.4. So I don't think she made a bad decision. Was it the wrong decision? Ultimately it was, but she wasn't driving the car in front of her that she had to decide which way they were going. So at times you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, and that was close to a problem right there for Bijoy Garg. That right front lockup coming into 5, car got a little loose on him. And now what he needs to do is just settle down. He's got a really fast race car underneath him. The traffic closed the gap to Goldberg, and his last lap time was really, really fast as well. Bijoy Garg can see Dan Goldberg in front of him right now with 18 minutes to go. Don't make mistakes. Do exactly what you've done that's gotten you to this point, and the 73 will start coming back towards you.
Yeah, it will quite rapidly. I mean, even on that last lap, he pulled a second and a half on him. Now, this lap, they got clear traffic. Let's see what are the lap times. Well, Dan Goldberg did a 14.8. Bijoy Garg ran a 14.0, new fastest lap of the race with a second place car. That's Bijoy Garg from Atherton, California.
Well, and for Dan Goldberg, his willingness to be aggressive in traffic, I think, has cost him lap time. There were times when he couldn't be, obviously, but other times where maybe he could have been a little bit more aggressive and built a bigger gap. Now he needs to focus forward, get up on the wheel, and start putting those lap times in, as we're now down into the 17-minute to go time frame. Yeah,
so plenty of time then for Bijoy Garg. He's got the pace. He was almost a full second faster last time around. I think Dan will reduce that margin somewhat, but he's certainly got the bit between his teeth. And there's another pit stop for Michael Cooper. It's his second pit stop of the day. He's already 3 laps down, so clearly major problems for the car that won yesterday in GSX.
I saw the accelerating performance crew taking off headsets as they walked to the car. That's not a good sign at all. Good battle here, though, between the 27 of Sebastian Carrazzo and Adam Adelson aboard the 46. That is a battle for 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, and by the way, number 38 car, that's Jonathan Wooldridge, he was assessed a drive-through penalty for that contact he had with Adrian Kunzel, and has just served that penalty. So he's back to 8th position again in LMP3. Meanwhile, super badly, Adam Adelson really doing a nice job in that NOLA Sport Porsche.
Oh, the officials aren't going to like this either. Carrazzo with a big block on the 95 onto the front straightaway, a little contact there as well. Up over the hill into turn 2, the 95 around the outside. That's Francis Seldorf trying to get by the 27 and onto the front straightaway. Carrazzo just got checked up, then moves to block, and Seldorf says, I'm going anyway. They make a little bit of contact there, and I think that was a defensive move on the part of the 27 of Carrazzo. I think he moved there first, but I think Francis Seldorf said, no, that's where I'm going, and just said, I'm going to keep going there. So I don't think it was a block and move in response, per se, by Carrazzo. Do you, Jeremy?
Not quite, I think. I think he'd already decided to make that move. He was already beginning to make that move toward the inside. It's a little bit late, but I think he'll probably just about get away with that one.
Yeah, I think it was really. Yeah, I think it was just in time enough to not be called a move in response.
Yeah, just. So this time it's lap times for the leader, 14.6 for Dan Goldberg. His fastest lap race was 14.5. He's set way back on lap 4. So he's just a tenth of a second or so behind that. But Bijoy Garg is closing and now within a second for the first time in this race.
Look at this. This is a battle for the lead. Garg is there side by side. Yeah. We talk about the high level of commitment at this racetrack. How committed are you? Wow. Dan Goldberg says, no, not right now. Not going to happen. Not this lap. Goldberg has the championship lead by only 20 points. He needs to be in front. Take a look. Top of the screen. This is a replay up in turn 5. Goldberg pressing too hard, makes the mistake. That's what puts Garg there.
Yeah, and Garg had the preferred line going up the Mario-Andretti straightaway. He had the inside, what would have been the inside line for turn 8, but really brave move by Dan Goldberg to brake as late as he possibly could, cut across the bows and hope he wasn't going to get hit by Bijoy Garg. So hats off there to Dan Goldberg. That was a really good comeback after the mistake he made at Moss Corner.
Yeah, you've got to put that stuff behind you. Once you're through the corner, you've made the mistake. Focus forward. That's what Dan Goldberg needs to do right now. Hit your marks, put your laps in. You've kept him behind you. Now you need to keep him behind you for the next 13 and a half minutes.
That's exactly the plan. So he will try and do that. This is an sprawling battle then between these two. And Dan Goldberg, he's got a kind of a second life now, hasn't he, effectively, having used up one on that previous lap. Now it's going to be no mistakes from him. He's going to have more traffic to deal with before the end of this 45-minute race. We've got 13 minutes remaining. We're going to catch the GSX leaders one more time. I think, yeah, they are. I'm sure they are before the end of this race. So he's got to sort of keep his powder dry and make sure he's ready for that combat. He's going to have to work his way through the GSX traffic and try to keep Bijoy Garg behind him.
Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. This is the 6th race of the season, the 3rd race weekend, and this is the battle for the lead. But Jeremy, it's also the battle for the championship. Dan Goldberg in the 73 out in front, that light green Duquesne chassis, has the championship lead right now with 1,600 points. Bijoy Garg behind him, 1,580 points in total on the season. You get 350 for a win and 320 for second. That's a 30-point swing. If Bijoy Garg can get in front of the 73, he'll leave Canada with a championship lead.
Yeah, he will. And right now, they've got 2 wins apiece. Dan Goldberg won the opening 2 races of the season at Daytona. Bijoy Garg did the same thing at Sebring. And yesterday, of course, Garg beat Goldberg. The problem for Bijoy was the second race at Daytona, the first race of the championship, he finished only 5th. So that cost him in the points, but he's looking to make up that deficit here this morning.
Well, and this is where discipline is going to come in, and you're going to have to measure that discipline with a little bit of risk. We talk about this racetrack being high risk, high reward. Oh, and a problem for Lance Wilsey. That's leaving 5B, Moss Corner, loops it around to the inside. That should not bring out a full course caution, but I was talking about it's a racetrack that demands commitment, especially in traffic. And what we've seen so far, Dan Goldberg a little less willing to be aggressive in traffic than Bijoy Garg is, but then Garg just makes a mistake. Drops the wheel off in the braking zone. That could have been disastrous.
Yeah, we saw yesterday what happened to the crash there for Keith McGovern yesterday. That was pretty scary. He lost it coming into that corner, just a bit before where the point in the racetrack where Bijoy Garg had his problem. They just locked up a brake, I think, going up the hill. And as you go up that hill, there's a lot of retardation just provided by the topography there, let alone the brakes. Uh-oh, I think Goldberg's, is he in the wrong place
Goldberg's
here?
in the right spot. He'll get that done. Yeah. Watch the traffic here. Almost gets the nose taken off. And that hesitation is going to give Garg a leap off of turn 10. Not enough. Hard to get it done in turn 1. And Goldberg will clear one GSX car. Garg gets held up a little bit. And now the 73 past Patrick Wilmot as they sweep into turn 2, and Garg looks to the outside. And for Dan Goldberg, that 3 or 4 car lengths that he just gained could be all the difference in the world. It's given him a little bit of breathing room. Garg needs to get back up on the wheel in that number 3, Junior 3 Racing Ligier, and see if he can charge back up there. He's got time. Focus forward, do your job, hit your marks. There's more traffic coming up.
Yeah, wow, this is exciting. This is tremendous racing, and just great to be able to deal with this traffic. That's one of the great things I think about the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, is that with the multi-class racing, that's what you're going to experience as you move on up the ladder to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and that's what it teaches these drivers now.
Bijoy Garg getting the short end of that stick. The 95 right there beside him, Francis Seldorf in the BMW, is fighting for position with Carrazzo just in front of him. They don't want to pause too long to let the P3 cars go, but at the same point in time, Bijoy Garg is going, hey guys, I'm in a battle myself here. I need to catch that gray 73 up in front of you. And right now, I think Dan Goldberg got the message about traffic. He's been a little bit more aggressive, but I think he's also been incredibly fortunate, Jeremy. He's caught it at the right time where it has not cost him as much as it has for Bijoy Garg.
True that, and particularly on that last lap, because it cost him almost a couple of seconds of Bijoy Garg, so he's got to make up that deficit now. And we're now inside 9 minutes remaining, so it'll be another probably 7 laps to the end of this race, and he's going to sneak up alongside Sebastian Carrazzo. But
and Carrazzo, contact.
That's Alex Kirby.
With Alex Kirby, and this is that inter-class battle kind of stuff. You need to know who you're with. And for Carrazzo, he didn't want to slow down too much because he had Seldorf right behind him. Once again, he's trying to keep the momentum up, and Alex Kirby gets in there and gets the worst of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a late lunge there for Alex Kirby, and it runs a little bit wide. He's way wide there on the exit of turn 5, so... But yeah, Sebastian Carrazzo, it hit him. It's his responsibility. He's behind at that stage. But let's have a look at it again.
Carrazzo never gets to the apex of 5B here. It doesn't look like he's even going to make the apex.
Oh no, I'm not sure about that. I think the number 7 car wasn't going to get to the apex.
Well, no, because he had a car beside him. I think Carrazzo carried so much speed in to try to maintain the position. I think he was pushing off the apex, and that's what created the contact.
Yeah.
And the incident between the 7 and the 27 is under review. And this is where it gets fraught in the ladder going, and you're in the middle of these battles. That's for a top 5 finish for Carrazzo. Remember, he leads the championship in the GSX category. If he gets pinned for that incident and has to serve a drive-through, that will be devastating to his points haul today.
Yeah, it will, and it'll probably mean he'll lose the championship lead. Whereas Moise Uretsky is running in 2nd position in the class. He's already 3 places ahead of the class leader, which is Sebastian Carrazzo. So yeah, he's got some work to cut out here. By the way, that spin for Alex Kirby, Courtney Crone has now taken back 3rd position. And she's going to be under pressure now from Alex Kirby. So that's going to be a battle in the final stages of this race between number 99 and a number 7 car, as Dan Goldberg has really got his head down. Lost a little bit of ground to Bijoy Garg on that last lap, but I don't think he's closing fast enough at this rate, Bijoy Garg, to trouble the leader.
Duquesne chassis in the hands of Dan Goldberg up front. It's the Ligier chassis for Bijoy Garg. And Jeremy, you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. To me, it looks like the Ligier works a little bit better through the high-speed corners, and I think the Duquesne comes off of Moss Corner 5B right here and really gets a good run down the back straightaway. So these cars making their lap times, I believe, in different parts of the racetrack.
Yeah, I completely concur with that one, and it's certainly interesting to see the relative advantages of each, or disadvantages of each of these 2 cars. But Bijoy Garg, he's pushing on hard here. A 14.076 last time around. That's just a gnat's whisker away from his fastest lap of the race. So he's charging hard here, and he's got the bit between his teeth. Going to try and close that deficit some more to Dan Goldberg. Dan Goldberg's last lap at 1 minute 14.6. Again, just a tenth of a second away from his fastest lap of the race, and he's still lost 4 tenths to Bijoy Garg in second position. There's more traffic. That's the...
Man, that really closed it up again, and any little hesitation at all is going to give you that lunge forward, and all you're looking for is 5 feet, 6 feet, whatever. Get a little closer, see if you can get the draft. Can you make a move down the back straightaway? Goldberg, one more time through turn 5. Garg a little bit closer, but a little off the apex there. It's Dan Goldberg who has the advantage off of 5B almost every lap. He's on the apex, on the marks, gets the power down earlier, and consequently, you can almost sense the frustration for Bijoy Garg down the back straightaway. He feels like he's there through the inside part of the racetrack, and then comes out of 5 and watches that car just inch away as they head down to turn 8.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating, hasn't it, that aspect of it? But we're now, what, 4.5 minutes remain.
Got checked up there big time. And there's the problem.
Have to get defensive.
He has to be defensive, and this is where Garg is quick, and that's that run off the corner. It was the 17 car in front of him that checked him up a little bit. Walks, and Dan Goldberg had to get out of the throttle, and that allowed Garg to pounce. Can he do anything with it? He's as close as he's been here in turn 3, but very difficult to make a move. You can get it done in turn 5, but it is a high risk maneuver, and Garg just didn't get the run off turn 3 that time, Jeremy. He lost ground.
He did, didn't he? And Dan Goldberg, that car is working well for him through there. No mistakes this time at Moss corner. Gets off the hairpin nicely. Gets a good run onto the Mario Andretti straightaway. Such that it is, and he's able to maintain that edge for one more lap. But is there going to be more traffic coming up? I think there probably is for the final couple of laps of this race.
Closing down here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, race number 6 for VP Racing SportsCar Challenge on the 2023 season, and the leaders are about to incur more traffic. Dan Goldberg sweeps out of turn 10, has to check up a little bit, and just behind him, Bijoy Garg gets a run. One more time, Jeremy, we've seen this before, and what is Garg thinking? Okay, I've seen this before. This is the hand I played last time. Maybe I'll play a different hand this time.
And it's Adrian Kunzel who's right ahead of me. He's at the tail end of the lead lap, and he didn't make things easy there for Dan Goldberg. He's not going to let the leaders go through. He wants to stay on the lead lap. There's only a few minutes to go in this race. It doesn't really matter whether he loses a lap or not. I would come on, Adrian, let the leaders go past.
He needs to let them go.
And let them get on with their battle.
Kunzel into 5, right in the middle of the racetrack, parks it there. Goldberg can't get around. He needs to get a good run here off the corner. And that's the best run that Garg has gotten off of 5B all race long. Kunzel in front is a pain right now for Dan Goldberg. He wants him out of the way.
Yeah, and the MLT Motorsports team really needs to
there
tell
he goes.
him, and there he goes. Good job. I'm sure the team was on the radio there saying, let the leaders go, and he's done that for both of them. So well done, Adrian Kunzel. Good job there. He had that spin earlier on. Of course, he was punted into a spin earlier, so that's why he's at the back of the pack. He's still learning, obviously, about these cars. He hasn't been racing for very long, but now here we are. 1 minute 59 remains, so it'll be 2 laps to go for our race leaders.
2 to go. Just about 5 miles and change around Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Dan Goldberg, empty racetrack in front of him right now, and I think for the next 2 laps, he may have smooth sailing. That means it's all on his shoulders. All the pressure, all the weight of this event he carries, and this time, Garg, a great run into 3, but I don't know, off of 3, he doesn't seem to have the drive that he had earlier on. You wonder if perhaps he's used up some of his tire, and I said he's gonna have 2 clean laps, but I don't think that's the case, Jeremy. I'm looking up in front of him. I think Dan Goldberg's gonna have to deal with traffic again.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't think you can catch Lance Wilsey, who is running in 7th position on red in the LMP3 car, but there's certainly a couple of GSX cars that he will catch on this next lap. So it'll be white flag this time around for Dan Goldberg in that JDC Motorsports chicane, car number 73.
Goldberg through turn 10, He just needs to come through there one more time in this position. There's the white flag. 1 to go for Goldberg. He'll be looking for win number 3, but he's going to have to look around the outside of Tim Probert in turn 1. Gets past Probert in the Mercedes. Gets past pretty smoothly. Garg follows him through. No advantage gained there, but more traffic in front.
This is tremendous. I mean, this is why Dan Goldberg does this. He's had success here at Canadian Tire Motorsport in the past. Back in the old Prototype Challenge Series, he ran well here. Finished second to a very talented youngster called Sean Rahal, almost 10 years ago now, I think. So he loves this racetrack. Is it good for him on this final lap?
That's it. Goldberg needs to work through this traffic. Garg with the mistake in 5B, got loose, over-rotated the car on the way in. That has given Goldberg breathing room. He may need it as he works through this traffic. Todd Coleman, the green Aston Martin, he'll flash by there. Then the BMW slides through the inside. Goldberg looking for win number 3 on the season. JDC Motorsports, are they going to celebrate? Garg is not giving up the hunt at all. He's pushing. So is Dan Goldberg. He'll cross the line. He'll take the victory right there. Great job by Dan Goldberg. Give and take all race long. Aggressive when he needed to be in traffic. Cautious when he needed to be as well, Jeremy. And comes home with win number 3 on the season.
That was a really impressive drive for Dan Goldberg. Now I see why he loves this racetrack. He had to work so hard for that victory. The pressure was on. He made a mistake or two, but nothing too egregious. He's able to come away with the win. And meanwhile, in GSX, it's been a flag-to-flag drive here for Gregory Liefooghe.
Stephen Cameron Racing, BMW, Gregory Liefooghe, they take the victory at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. That is the second win of the season for that team, that driver. They had a great run at Sebring with a second-place finish and a victory, and didn't run yesterday. You chronicled that, Jeremy. They wanted to make sure they had a car to run in Michelin Pilot SportsCar Challenge, and then came back today and showed what they were made of. Moise Uretsky aboard the number 44. He will finish second. He leads the Bronze Cup Championship in the GSX category, and he takes the checkered flag there. It's Liefooghe, Uretsky, and Adelson. That's the top 3 at GSX, and Goldberg, Garg, and Alex Kirby makes it back to the podium with a strong drive in the P3 category.
Wow. that was an enthralling race there. A tremendous contest between those two at the front of the field. And Dan Goldberg, he will be absolutely delighted with that one. That was hard-earned and exactly the way you want to win a motor race, Brian Till.
Well, and you think about the points. We were talking in that battle there with Goldberg and Garg, that if Garg got in front, he would have the points lead leading in Canada. That's not the case. In fact, Dan Goldberg extends his lead.
Yes. He does. But by my unofficial reckoning, Dan Goldberg will have 1,950 points. That's a 50-point edge now over Bijoy Garg. So he got that the hard way. In GSX, Sebastian Carrazzo's lead will be trimmed dramatically. Finished 5th today. He'll now have 1,670 points to the 1,640 of Moise Uretsky, who finished a fine second place for accelerating performance in his accelerated motorsports in his Aston Martin Vantage. So a good run there for Moise Uretsky, who extends his lead in the Bronze Cup category.
Love this classes, love this series. Lime Rock is up next. We'll have 2 races there, then to VIR, and we'll finish the season at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. VP Racing SportsCar Challenge, great show, the doubleheader here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Fans loved it as well. They always do here in Canada. Great fans, and there's more racing yet to come for them today. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Brian Till. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you the next time for VP Racing SportsCar Challenge from Lime Rock Park in Connecticut. So long, everyone.